Lila Stewart, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Bora. Looking forward to this.
Lila, I want to know about the founding story of Harimari. I was checking you out. I saw that in a past life you were also in the events business at AEG Live. So when you were there, my previous startup was also. We were actually working with AEG
Oh,
at the
very
time.
cool.
At some point, I want to know how you went from that world to starting your own brand. What's the founding story?
Sure. I'd love to share the story, and thank you again for having me. So, there's no short way of telling it, but my husband and I are both from Dallas, and we're working in Dallas in 2007. An opportunity arose that popped up for us to move to Jakarta, Indonesia. Jeremy got an offer to work on a presidential campaign as a political consultant in Jakarta, Indonesia. And so we jumped on the opportunity. I definitely had to Google on a map where it was. And obviously, we're in Dallas, so it was pretty far from home. And that was 2007. And we were there from 2007 to 2010. And it was an incredibly rewarding experience living there and eye opening and a little bit sad given the poverty that we saw. And, to paint a picture, families live on less than $1 a day and there's no access to health care, very little. And really no formal trash or sewage system in parts of the city. And the culture was amazing. And I got on the board for the American Women's Association while we were there, while Jeremy was working on the presidential campaign and helped kids in orphanages in and around Jakarta. And to paint a very specific picture, if you or any of your listeners have happened to see Slumdog Millionaire, that's what Jakarta was like, almost to a T, very identical. And so, needless to say, it was a pretty life-changing experience, and we were inundated in this beautiful culture and experience for 3 years. And so in 2010, when we moved back to the States, that Jeremy's project was over, there was a big conversation around what's
What
next.
happened with the presidential campaign?
Well, there were 37 political parties. They couldn't beat the incumbent, and
Oh,
their candidate came in second place.
well, that's
So
good.
it was close. It was very
Beat
close.
35 guys.
Yeah, exactly. So after having that kind of an experience, when we were changed humans, when we moved back, we wanted to do something that was philanthropic. We wanted to do something that was night and day different from what we'd been doing, and didn't want to jump back into corporate America. Wanted something that was our own that we could be really passionate about. And as funny as it might sound, we had worn out our flip flops that we'd been wearing over there and went shopping for a new pair. And when we got home, and noticed that literally the exact same pairs that were for sale in 2007 were hanging on that exact same wall in 2010 when we got back. And it was the same black, same brown, same status quo, nothing new, nothing fresh on that wall. And my husband was looking for something a little more elevated, pop of color, didn't exist. Then I wanted a leather sandal that didn't destroy my feet in the break-in period process, and that also didn't exist. And so then to take it a step further, we've never been on surfboards. We're not surfers. We're in Texas. We're not necessarily near the coast, and there's so many Americans that can probably relate. And so to take it a step further from a marketing perspective, those brands on that wall were not resonating to us because we weren't surfers. They're all surf brands. And so I always tell people that was kind of our Oprah aha moment, if you will. To
Which ones like Reef, Olokai?
Yes,
Yeah.
Reef, Rainbow, Cobian, Quicksilver, and
Tahiti? Oh, no. Which one's the other one?
Havaianas.
Hawaii. Yeah, that's the
Yes,
one. Yeah.
yes. It's a long list
Yeah.
of surf brands
Yeah.
in our space, and they've all been around for a while. And
Yeah.
so
I
that
am a
was
surfer though. Look, there's a.
nice. Okay, well, that makes one of us. I'd love to learn how. I've never been given the
I was
opportunity.
gonna ask you because you mentioned Indonesia. I was gonna ask you if you went to Bali because they have amazing waves there. I
Oh
hear.
my gosh, Bali's amazing. We got engaged in Bali,
Oh
actually.
wow, amazing.
It's beautiful. Bali's incredible, but we did not surf there. So, but yeah, so
Not a beginner surfer place.
no,
It,
it's not.
yeah.
You're right. It's not. So, back to this moment we had in the store where we couldn't find something that we liked, that resonated with us, that was speaking to us. It was a lot of what we'd seen for the last kind of 15 years in the flip flop space. And so we felt like, well, first let's do some research and let's find out why these brands are only producing flip flops that are black and brown. Is that consumer driven? Is that brand driven? Because they're able to be lazy because no one's challenging them and they can just continue to make black and brown flip-flops, or what's the real story? And so we did focus groups and R&D and quite a bit of research, and through all of that,
What was the research like?
well, we did focus groups with a bunch of college kids here in Dallas. We're fortunate to have several university campuses here within Access. And so we'd hold focus groups and have them come to these meetings, offer free beer, pizza, and we didn't tell them what they were coming to that group for. We had a moderator.
What did you do? Like email the university and ask them
Flyers.
if there's something you want to do?
Yeah, we put flyers
Oh,
up.
flyers. Okay,
Put them
so
up on
that's the
bulletin
level of
boards.
detail I want to get into.
Oh, great.
That's
Yeah.
that's a pretty hardcore thing to do. Print up flyers and put it up in universities.
Yeah, well, keep in mind, this is also, 2010, maybe 2011 at this point. And so that was, now you would go digital with it, right? But back then, not so much. So we printed up flyers and had a friend of ours be the mediator. And the kids that were coming, the college kids that were coming, didn't know what they were coming for. They just knew they were getting free pizza and beer. And I think we were offering $50 actually, but I can't remember because it was so long ago. And most of them were actually wearing flip-flops that came to the focus group. And some weren't.
In Dallas.
And so we just peppered them with questions. And for the ones that were, and the ones that, why were you wearing flip-flops? What did you like about them? What did you dislike about them? For the ones that weren't, why aren't you wearing flip-flops? It's 100 degrees outside. And through that, we gained so much information about likes and dislikes. But what was really incredible about it was hearing people talk specifically about the toe piece, which is the piece that goes in between your first and second toe. And so it was through that research, so to speak, that we decided to design and file a patent for a memory foam toe post, which fast forward to today, which we'll get to, is a huge part of our sales.
Well, by the way, the focus group thing, not a lot of people would think of doing that. Is that because your husband was in the politics business and they do a lot of focus groups there? Is that how it
Yes.
came about? And he knew
Exactly.
how to put it together and ask what kind of question to
Yes.
ask?
Yes.
I've been an entrepreneur for, 11 years now. I don't know how to do focus groups like that. It's
Well-
not an easy, obvious thing to do.
Right. Well, his background gave him a little bit of insight on how to do it, and more importantly, the why to do it, which is, a lot of what we learned from those groups is turned into a big part of Harimari's DNA.
Amazing.
So,
Memory foam. I interrupted you.
Toe
Memory
post.
foam.
Yep, we designed it, filed patent for it, and it took 7 years to get it, which
Well, how did you know to file a patent for it? Did you think that it was going to be an important part of the growth or building the business?
We just wanted to-
How do you make a decision to file a patent?
we wanted to protect it because we knew that no other brand had it.
Interesting.
And it seemingly
Mattresses
should be,
have it, right? It's a mattress thing.
yeah,
I see.
and should
Yeah.
be, if we do our jobs right, an important part of the brand and a big selling point, and something that we either want to protect or we want to license at some point, which to make money off of. So we just knew that it was, to us, as silly as it sounds, was groundbreaking, because if most people aren't wearing flip-flops, and that's the main reason why they don't like wearing flip-flops, and if we're able to combat that and design a product that makes it more comfortable in that piece specifically, to us that was really valuable and something that we should try and either protect or monetize.
I'm trying to remember now, as a surfer and wearing different kinds of flip-flops, pay attention. At one point, I was buying a brand, was it Reef or something else, that was soft, right? Probably wasn't memory foam, I imagine, because you're saying that they didn't have it. I guess question one is like, how come the other brands didn't think of doing that? Second one is what I was noticing is if you buy those flip-flops with cushion and then it gets wet and it starts smelling like moisture because it kind of water gets stuck in there or something. So I stopped buying the ones with that kind of cushion. I was buying thinner ones again, so it didn't stink because ocean water gets in there and it's just like
Yes.
yeah.
Well,
So
couple
how come
things
the
that-
other brands weren't doing this?
Brands are putting in EVA foam. It's not memory foam, but it's called EVA,
EVA
in the midst. I have a pair of flip-flops here. So this is what you're referring to is the foam.
Yeah.
The patented toe post I'm referring to is this.
Oh, that part.
Yes. So that's a memory foam toe post. That's what our patent is, not the piece
Why?
here.
Why did you? Why did you? What does that do?
So if your feet are in it,
Yeah.
it doesn't hurt.
Oh,
It
I
stays,
see. If you
it
walk a
stays,
lot, it doesn't kind of like bruise around the toes,
yeah.
is what it
And it's
is.
going to mold to the shape of in between your first and second toe without
Mm.
causing a blister. And it's also soft, super
Oh,
soft.
okay. That
Unlike
is different. That's
yes.
definitely different.
Other brands have a hard piece of leather here, a hard
Yeah.
piece of plastic here, an uncomfortable piece of nylon.
Yeah.
It varies depending upon the brand, but this is like super squishy, super soft, and it's a really nice selling feature for comfort.
Yeah. Yeah. So you applied for a patent. The next question would be, how did you go from, all right, now we did our focus groups. We want to do this. We want to solve our own problem. The patent is applied for. Now you have to produce, I don't know, some minimum order quantity somewhere.
Hmm.
Uh, how did you know who to contact, and how many of them did you make, and how did you get your first 100 sales?
Sure. So, living in Southeast Asia helped us to not necessarily be intimidated of trying to find a factory overseas. So we just researched and found the factory that the very first online, found the first factory that we worked with. Um, and Jeremy flew over to China to work out the deal, check on production, all of the above. Where I think if we hadn't lived in Indonesia for those few years, the idea of going to China and doing all those things by ourselves might have been kind of daunting. But I feel like us living abroad gave us a little bit of a leg up in that way.
Do you have to fly all the way there to do it,
I
or
don't
just to
think
do it
you
right, I
I don't
guess?
think you have to.
Yeah.
I just think we wanted to. He also went back when we were in production, which I have a horror story about that.
Oh, I
But
want
with
to
our
hear
first
that.
run on, once they told us they were producing the actual flip flops to check on everything. And so my gosh, we blindly placed an order for 15,000 pairs for our
15,000.
first
So was that
order.
the minimum? What was the minimum?
That was their minimum.
That was the minimum, yeah.
We didn't have orders against it from retailers.
Mm-hmm.
So when the day that we launched, which was March 22nd of 2012,
Mm-hmm.
we had hired a PR firm, one that we couldn't afford, so they didn't last with us long,
Yeah.
to help us.
So at this point, you're taking probably at least 100K type of a risk or something like that of your own money.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep, out of pocket, our
So,
money.
yeah.
And so we turned the website on. We had thrill lists through this PR firm set to feature the brand the day that we launched. And I remember Jeremy waking up that morning at like 6, and he's like, I got to get to the office and make sure I'm filling all these orders. And, I get there a little bit later because we had a kid, and
Which orders? Where are the orders coming from?
web orders from online.
But how did the word get out from the PR
Well,
firms? What?
friends and family. So we were expecting this, gangbusters sale, online sales for our first day, and from this thrill list feature. And I think we had like 15 web orders
What
on
did
day one.
Thrillist say? What was the angle that they talked about?
Just something about a new, fresh, edgy flip flop launching.
Okay, yeah.
That was it.
And
Pretty
it
basic.
drove good amount of traffic, or?
Not really. No, not much.
Yeah,
And so our expectation was here, and the reality was probably
sure. Yeah.
about here.
Well, welcome to entrepreneurship, right?
Exactly. And so at that point, when we realized that it was going to be a much harder lift to build a brand that's only focused on direct to consumer. And so we had 15,000 pairs of flip flops to sell, and we knew at that point we're like, we've got to go wholesale, and it really wasn't a part of our original plan. So I threw my samples in the back of my car and hit the road, and didn't have any experience with wholesale or retail sales, but I would just walk into stores and show them the product and share our story. And
Which stores?
stores in Dallas, which is
Just
where we are.
boutiques and.
Boutiques, outdoor stores, shoe stores.
But so who do you talk to? The manager who works there?
I would ask for the buyer or ask for the owner, or
Yeah.
just ask, hey, who's responsible for doing your buying? Because sometimes it is the manager and sometimes it's the owner. It's kind of different in a lot of those boutiques. And so pretty successful in getting maybe 30, no, 25 stores across Texas within the first, say, 2 months.
25 stores in 2 months. How many stores did you visit in 2 months?
Uh, Probably 70, 60.
Wow, that's such a great conversion rate. So what were you telling them? Were you showing them the memory foam and then they were saying, "Oh, cool, that's so different."
I was talking about the comfort. I was talking about the toe post, and our first line was very bright. It had a white footbed, white hemp footbed with really bright colored straps, and so we stuck out. We stuck out in a crowd for sure. And then there was a big piece of that too, where I was leaning into the Dallas play. Like, we're local, buy local. We'll come do an event with you if you buy the brand. Just very grassroots. And then, so I came home after, traveling really all over Texas. Started with Dallas and then just kept expanding. And then I got on the road and drove basically all the way from Dallas to the East Coast, to the Carolinas, and then back. Kind of my route there was, up, and then coming back went south, essentially.
Did you design your route based on who has the boutique type of shoe stores? That makes sense.
I did not need to do that. I did not need to go all the way to the East Coast. I could have just gone to like Oklahoma, like surrounding states, but I was just determined to get as many accounts as we could. And so we launched in March, and by the end of August, we had about 50 stores selling Harimaris. And so then I took that quote unquote success, and we did our first trade show. And we went to the.
Oh, hold on.
Okay. I get excited and get ahead of myself.
Yeah. No, but I like to approach this as if I'm starting a shoe brand, what do I need to know? You know what I mean? So that's what I'm trying to. So the success you're talking about, the way I'm thinking about it, I have 15,000 shoes that I gotta sell. I already crushed it after visiting 75, 25 of them agreed. Now I got a few more. So just kind of let's look at the expectations versus reality. Thrillist expectation here, reality was here. What was the expectation? Like, if I get like one store, how many sales should I expect in 1 month from one store?
We weren't really, if I'm being honest, we weren't really forecasting or planning it out like that. I just wanted to sell everything that we bought.
Yeah.
We just
So
needed
what's the
to
reality then?
recoup our investment. The reality was 30% of the inventory we received was defective.
Was that the horror story?
Yes.
So what was the defect?
So remember how I said Jeremy went over to visit and check on production when they were in production?
Yeah.
So he sat at the factory line and basically vetoed any pair that wasn't perfect, that was crooked, had some sort of defect or issue. And what he thought, in doing so, he thought that they would throw them away or repurpose them elsewhere. But what in fact happened is that the factory just put them right back into the shipping boxes and sent them to us.
As soon as Jeremy turned his back,
Either that or as soon as he left. We don't know. But we got all of those defective pairs that he vetoed there on site to us.
were they completely unusable defects, or is it just like little?
Some of them arrived like that. Yeah, they were. None of them were resellable.
Right. So
30%,
30% went to waste. But
30%.
again, going back to like if I'm selling to one store, how many sales happen usually in one boutique stores a month?
Well, I think I was excited about getting a store to buy 2 or 3 different colors and to buy a size run so that if someone came in, they had their size available. So
they have to buy it from you, right? It's not like give it to us and we'll pay you if a sale happens, kind of a thing.
correct. We didn't do consignment. We've never done consignment. It was
Do they ask to do it like that?
Oh, of course. We still to this day we get asked if we offer consignment, which we just
So
don't.
you just put your foot down and say we won't do that.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we would get excited about orders that were, $1,000, $2,000. Really just a sale, any kind of sale in general was exciting, especially in those beginning months. To say we got to add a new store to our roster, that was exciting. And moving through some of the inventory was exciting. And but we had a lot of local stores here in Dallas support us, which if I were to do it again, I wouldn't have taken that road trip all the way over to the East Coast. I really would have just focused on our home state.
And what kind of cuts would you give them from each sale?
So wholesale in our world with flip-flops is 50-50. So
Okay.
at that point in time, the flip-flops retailed for 60, so they were buying them from us at $30 per pair.
What's a wholesale minimum?
We didn't have minimums then.
Yeah.
We didn't require them to order a certain amount. We do now,
You do
but
now.
we didn't at the time.
So what do you require now?
So now we offer fixtures. We have 3 different sized fixtures, a small, medium, and a large fixture. And so the minimums are basically what it would take to fill the fixture.
Is it like a few hundred, a couple thousand?
There's starts at 70, 150, and then 300 pairs.
Oh, okay. So it's
That's-
not. Okay.
Yeah, it's a range.
Yeah, yeah. So interesting. So, we realize DTC is really hard to do. So we really have to hustle and go from store to store. And then how long did it take for you to? So 30% of the 15,000 is 4,500, right? So we only have like 10,000. How long did it take to get through 10,000 pairs?
We pretty much sold through everything that first year between wholesale and e-com. So
And how are
I
you
don't
feeling
really-
at the end of the year, Lila? You're just like, oh my God, is this worth it? This was, I mean, such a grind.
It,
Did you
it
expect
was
to
a
do
grind. I didn't. I think if someone told me how hard it was before we started, I think we still would have done it. But ignorance is kind of bliss in that way, But I love it. We love it so much. Even to this day, it's still a grind. We're 12 years in. I wouldn't have it any other way.
At the end of the year, we got rid of our 15,000, and now what's next for us? What are we focusing on in year 2?
Year 2, it was really focusing on how do we grow our wholesale footprint. So, and obviously e-com, but wholesale was easier because they buy in bulk or they buy multiple versus an individual sale online. And we also learned that if people could discover the brand in retail, it was a double win because we're not only getting that advertising of people seeing us in the store, but we're also getting that sale. And so, but what we're also learning is that if they buy the product in retail and they enjoy it, they were coming back to our website to either purchase additional pairs or to get multiple colors. And so it was much easier for us to spin our wheels and focus on wholesale and it would have been a lot more expensive if we'd focused on direct to consumer. So I hired our first salesperson to help me grow the business that second year. And his name was Adam, and he was awesome. And so really, I can't remember details, but the brand has been growing at a clip of about 30% year over year ever
That's
since.
amazing.
We've really
Really?
focused on wholesale from the get-go, but noticing at the same time, as wholesale increases, our e-com business is right there behind it.
Because people are becoming more aware of the brand, word is spreading.
Yep.
So year 2 focuses wholesale. Did that change in year 3, 4, 5, or has it always been wholesale first and then everything else is second?
It's probably always been wholesale first. Just big believers in it. And despite people talking about DTC and the importance of it, we still believe in retail. We always have. Especially with the new footwear brands, people want to see, touch, feel, try on. Can't do that through a website. So we've always believed in it. I think year 2, in addition to that, I had told you we'd hired a PR firm that was really expensive when we first started. And
What is it, 5K a month, 10K a month?
it was $5K a month,
Yeah.
and that was back in 2012. And we weren't even paying ourselves at that point. So $5,000 a month was rich.
Yeah.
And so I remember the third month in, I remember having a conversation with them about some low-hanging fruit, i.e. easier, smaller publications that were very regional, and they hadn't even approached him yet. And so at that point, I was like, this isn't working. So I called 2 friends of mine who handled PR for Neiman Marcus at the time. and I asked them if they would share their lists and teach me the business. And so they did. And so year 2, I took on handling PR for the business. And one of the things that they told me that you needed to do, which I believe in wholeheartedly and has really helped Harimari from a PR and brand awareness perspective, was the need to go to New York to have a face-to-face, which they call a desk side, for with these publications. And so starting year 2, I would go to New York twice a year. I would email probably 5 to 10 times each person until they hopefully responded, yes, I'll meet with you. And I would take the samples.
Buyers at places like Saks Fifth Avenue and places like that?
Not buyers. So like writers for Oprah Magazine or,
Okay, yeah.
Men's Journal, Men's Health, Cosmo. We've had some incredible, if you look at Harimari's press page, if you go to the footer of our website, it lists a lot of our, the companies
Were you
that
sending them pairs?
I would go meet with them and show them the collection and then have them pick what they like. And then I would send them pairs afterwards with a handwritten thank you note and then a printed catalog. And I feel like we've been so fortunate to be featured by so many publications because of the face-to-face time of going up there and meeting with them and sharing our story.
Well, when you say so fortunate, you're making it sound like it was luck. But, I mean, how many people are going to go from Dallas to New York just to, that's a lot of work. People don't realize how much work entrepreneurship is. It's very romantic, but just the amount of work involved. I mean, look at what you described to me. A lot of it I wouldn't do. I would not.
Well, they say that businesses fail because entrepreneurs give up.
Yeah.
And I believe that.
Yeah.
It's hard. I feel like Jeremy and I are very lucky to have each other to do it together because we're kind of in this foxhole together and we can divide and conquer and there's 2 of us to do it. I think it would be really hard to do it alone. Really hard.
Lila, it seems like you've expanded beyond just flip-flops. At some point, I was checking. There's the men's Tio, the Hacienda. It has it's a little bit like Uggs style, at least the inside of it. When did that happen?
We launched slippers about 2 years ago, but it's really small. It was like three options for men and 3 options for women, and it has done really, really well for us. But we've applied the same importance of comfort and quality and using premium products and as we do with our flip-flops into the slippers. And so we use real authentic shearling. It's buttery soft. It's the same outsoles as our flip-flops, so it's indoor outdoor use. It's the same really premium nice leathers that you'll get in our sandals, and so it lasts. And so we've applied all of those kind of bits and pieces of our flip-flop DNA to our slippers. And I think that the consumer's responding, so it's been fun. So we just launched it. We added to it, essentially adding a whole new flip-flop line called the Tio for men and the Tia for women. And obviously I'm very biased, but they're beautiful and they're very comfortable and,
It's
offers.
warm.
It's very warm, yes.
I have to try it because I go cold water surfing in the winter here in New England. And when you surf in January, February, and it's like snowing outside, you get out of the water, you have to change in the parking lot.
Yeah.
You take the boots off. So for some amount of minutes, your feet are cold.
Yes.
So I actually bring hot water with me in the car and kind of make sure, or you have gloves and your finger, you can't feel your fingers. So this would be great for that, like parking lot changing sessions. Like this kind of like a winter flip flops.
Love it. I love it. Maybe you just determined our new marketing plan for the rolling out of the slippers.
Hey, could be. I mean, like I was reading about. I actually bought Uggs. They kind of they were for Australian surfers who wanted to kind of just easily put on these Uggs after a surf session in Australia because it's cold in the winter and stuff like that. I was like, oh yeah, I want that, especially when there's snow on the ground. So it's very interesting. So what are some of the things that you're focusing on this year?
So we just wrapped up our pre-books for Wholesale for 2025. And so really exciting. Dick's Sporting Goods picked us up, putting us in 150 locations.
Oh, that's amazing.
Nordstrom,
Congratulations.
thank you. Nordstrom's taking the brand nationwide. We also just got picked up by Free People. And there's a long list of amazing multi-door retailers and chains that are picking up Harimari for 25. So to answer your question, my big objective going into the fall is thinking about how we show up at retail. So one, the importance of merchandising, and then increasing brand awareness in stores to increase sell-through. So right now, even though we're 12 years old, and even though Harimari sold in 1,000 stores across the United States, and we have those beautiful new retailers picking us up, I still feel like the vast majority of people living in the U.S. do not know of the brand yet. And so when you have these opportunities to get into a Dick's, into a Nordstrom, it's obviously huge. And so we're planning on a merchandising rollout plan for spring so that the week that our flip-flops arrive and get merched on the floor, that someone from Harimari or someone we hire is going in the store, telling the brand story, getting everyone on the floor excited about the product, getting product in their hand, giving them pairs to ensure that we've got a positive sell-through at retail. So that's a big to-do that I'm focusing on between now and February.
Mm-hmm. And outside of retail, how's the DTC part of it doing? Do you like what kind of marketing channels work for you, and what doesn't work?
So we've done quite a few things over the years, and it's, it changes, having been in business for 12 years. Now what we're finding is that influencer marketing is obviously very relevant. That's something that we all know. Everyone's always on their phones, always scrolling. And so 24 was actually the first time we've hired influencers. And so that's working. And then and we've done it for a few years, but it seems to be growing as a mailer, a catalog. And that's helpful as well. So those are two of our big focuses and objectives to increase in 25 as well.
Mm-hmm. For the creator influencers who are watching and listening, what would you look for when choosing an influencer creator to collaborate with?
Well, a lot of Harimari's DNA is about travel and adventure. And so finding men or women that align in that regard. We aren't necessarily a fashion brand. We can certainly play in that space, but we're not a fashion, so to speak, company. So really focusing more on travel and adventure and exploring and places you can go and things that you can do where you take your flip-flops and now slippers with you. And those are the types of influencers that we're focusing on.
Mm-hmm. Lila, final question. You mentioned one of the priorities. Give me one more priority for the year, and top 2 problems giving you a headache right now.
Another priority for the year is creating the best company culture that we can. We're growing and we're adding people to the team. And so to us, it's really important to hire good, honest, kind, cool people that we want to work with. And so culture is king. And so that's a priority for us right now. Top 2 headaches, finding good talent. We're in Dallas, Texas, where there's not a lot of brands or there's not a lot of startups. Sure, we have Neiman's, we have Fossil, and there are a couple others, but it's primarily a real estate and oil and gas driven city. So finding talent and people that have been there and done that in our space before is a challenge a little bit. I mean, we're an anomaly. All of our competitors are based in California. We're in Texas. So that's a challenge. Second headache, I don't know. I don't know if there is one right now.
Good. One headache is good. You don't need to.
Yeah. I think that might be it.
Lila Stewart, thank you for joining me.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It was great to meet you. I enjoyed the conversation.